Hello everybody, my name is Jim and welcome back to another Sponge Chat. For this Sponge Chat I have a very special guest, Emily Bryson. You've probably crossed paths with her at a conference, or you've seen her drawings at least on the web somewhere. Emily is quite special because her experience, both as a trainer and as a materials writer, is quite varied. She's worked with refugees in ESOL programs, and she's also advised MSPs on ESOL policy, which was quite interesting to find out about. We got to speak about her training experience and how she moved into that and how she's still managing that, and also materials writing, which takes up quite a large part of her time. She's just released, or she's been part of the Voices coursebook series. And it was really interesting to talk about how she manages her time and some of the things that she has to take into consideration with materials writing specifically. I hope you enjoyed this Sponge Chat. If you do, please let us know and leave a comment in the chat. All right, guys. Bye. Hi, Emily.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. From what you told me before, you're in Glasgow, correct?
Yeah.
Quite cold.
Yeah, quite cold, but yeah, doesn't look too bad today. Not raining, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, the same here in Zaragoza. It's quite sunny today, so I can't really complain. Just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your schedule to be here for this
Thanks
Sponge
for
Chat.
having me.
Yeah, I don't know how many Sponge Chats we've done so far. I've lost count, but it's they've just developed into something that I hadn't imagined, and it's great to again be speaking to another ELT professional with a whole completely different experience to my own, or to many of the other people that I've had on here as well. And I look forward to digging into your brain today a little bit more. Before we get into the question, I just want to explain the purpose of Spanish Chats, maybe for some people that are watching or listening for the first time. These all started like it's been two years ago or something. I got an email about how, basically asking how I got into teacher training, and I came to realize that for every person or every ELT trainer, it's quite different. You know, everyone takes different route. And so these Spanish chats are really to give people an idea of the different routes that they could take to move into different career paths. So not only teacher training, but materials development, ELT editing, and things like that. Now you're quite special because you're in like a number of different strands.
Many hats.
Many, yeah. So my first question then is always a big question. Who is Emily? We'll start with that one.
I'm guessing you're talking professionally, right?
A bit of the you, Emily, and then some professional would be great as well.
Okay. Well, I love being outdoors. I'm big into cycling and hiking up hills and swimming outside. People often think I don't know if you've heard of type 2 fun. Type
No.
no. So type 1 fun is watching TV, going out for a nice meal, going for a nice walk in the park.
Right.
And then type 2 funds, climbing 5 or 6 mountains in a day.
Okay, I like that.
And in the rain, into a headwind, or cycling up a hill into the rain in a headwind, that kind of thing. So very much into type 2 fun, much to the hilarity of a lot of my friends who are not into that kind of thing. And professionally, I am an ESOL lecturer at City of Glasgow College. I've been working there since about 2007 now.
Wow.
So that's supporting people seeking refuge, people seeking asylum, and some migrant workers. There's definitely been a drop off in the number of EU migrants since Brexit. Sadly, when I first started, probably 70% of my class were from the EU, and now that's completely flipped. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see the demographic changing depending on the political landscape, really. So I'm an ESOL lecturer. I'm also a graphic facilitator. So that means I use simple drawings to facilitate my classes. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of like drawing icons, and using visual templates and visual capture sheets and things like that. But I think we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I deliver online courses on those as well. I'm a teacher trainer, so I do a lot of webinars and teacher training sessions on various things. Literacy, accessibility, inclusion, supporting people seeking refuge, graphic facilitation, obviously. I also write books, so I've got 5 books at the moment. 50 ways, my first book was A to Z of ESOL. Then I wrote 50 ways to teach life skills, and then I've just finished authoring the Voices series for National Geographic Learning.
Wow.
And I wrote 2 student books, beginner and pre-intermediate, and then the workbook for them for the pre-intermediate level.
I mean, wow, that's
Yeah.
quite a. I don't even know how you put that into a CV. That must be very.
I know it's quite hard to fit onto the LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
And I'm an action research mentor at the moment as well for the OTLA, which is the Outstanding Teaching, Learning and Assessment project for the ETF, which is the Education Training Foundation, I think, in England. So
there's a lot of acronyms in there.
yeah, no, got to explain them all. I've probably got them wrong as well. So yeah, action research mentor at the moment, which is really, really great. Love that.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully we get to touch on some of these strands that you've mentioned today. I suppose if we can touch on sort of the 2 main big ones, I suppose, which would be materials development or materials writing and teacher training. And then also looking at your work with working with ESOL policy and working with refugees as well is really interesting. Let's touch on that. I suppose though, when you started teaching, there must have been a moment where you thought, I want more. It's more than just teaching. And I'm interested. What came first, the move into teacher training or the move into materials writing?
I think it was materials writing, probably. So I was teaching at the college, maybe 2000. Well, so I started in 2007, and then I was given the opportunity to write a course for ESOL for social care.
Right.
So I was working with this organization called Bridges Programs, who basically run training to get people seeking refuge into employment.
Right.
To support people with second language into employment in Scotland, in Glasgow. And so we delivered a training session for them, ESOL for social care. So I wrote that. And then that kind of snowballed into ESOL for finance, ESOL for employability, ESOL for customer care, ESOL for early years. So yeah, I was writing lots of materials for that and collaborating with lots of different partners across Glasgow, which was really great fun. And then I saw that the British Council were looking for writers. So I applied to them and started writing for their anniversaries project. So that was, what was that? That was to commemorate, was it the signing of the Magna Carta? Shakespeare, it was like 100 years, 200 years since, and there was another third thing. Can't remember what that was. I've got them on my website. The materials that I wrote for them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow. But I suppose the question is why, or did you
Yeah,
always
why?
did you feel like, oh, I suppose you would have started creating your own materials in your classes and then felt like you could take this further. Is that right?
Yeah. So I enjoy. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed writing them. I enjoyed the kind of. I found it quite therapeutic, just sitting and typing away and getting creative. And I think in a classroom you're quite hands-on and always looking out for your students and always thinking. Whereas when you're materials writing, it can be quite. You can do it at your own pace.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice. So yeah, I knew that I wanted to do more of that.
Right.
And yeah, I guess the challenges, I guess, were just getting into just finding the time and knowing which routes to take and finding the opportunities, really.
That seems to be a common theme, time.
Yeah.
Obviously that now you've just Voices, I think, has just been released. And that must have been, from what I understand, a course book is like a more than a 1 year project. It's like a 1 or 2 year project.
Yeah.
So how do you work that into your schedule? Because I imagine that you're working at the college still,
Yeah.
and you've got your fingers in many pies. How do you manage your time with that?
Well, so voices, I started about October 2019, and then
2019.
finished.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then I finished writing the workbook about this time last year. But then there's other little things like training videos that I've done for them. And so it feels like it's still ongoing. And then I've got a webinar to do in March. So it's very much still kind of, although I've finished writing, it still feels like a work in progress in many
Right.
ways. Uh, um, but sorry, what was that question?
No, I was
Got
what was it?
distracted.
No, I've just got distracted as well. No, I think I was talking about time.
Oh yeah,
How
so time for voices. So yeah, fitting voices in. So I 0.5 at the college, so that's 2.5 days. And the other 2.5 were writing for voices, which I did manage to fit in. I mean, sometimes I was working quite late on the days that I was writing,
right.
to fit it in. But yeah, now that I've got many hats, but I'm not writing for voices anymore, so
Right.
I can fit in all the other things in my 2.5 days of freelancing. It's quite, yeah. So
So
yeah,
you've
it's a lot of juggling and a lot of, like, for example, the action research mentoring. It's not like just on a Friday morning. It's kind of scattered about throughout the week.
right.
So there are a lot of plates to spin at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, every day is very different.
Does that mean that you're freelancing as well? Is that correct? You're
So at the college half of the week, and then freelancing for the other
right.
half
And
of the working week.
how do you find that's a good mix in terms of obviously I've spoken with a lot of freelancers and they one of the things that continually comes up is for people looking to move into freelancing, whether it's in teacher training, materials writing, is the idea of financial stability.
Yeah.
Do you find having that mix of stable work and freelancing as as a safe option, I suppose, right? It's
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
yeah,
And also with the college, you get a good package of like sick leave, uh, holiday, like really good holiday pay,
yeah.
uh, lots of different benefits as well.
Plus,
And
you're teaching as well, right?
yeah, and I think like I went to see a mortgage advisor last week, and they were kind of like, yeah, that the college is the safe thing that the mortgage lenders like. So
Okay, brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah, excellent.
yeah.
Um, right. So, I mean, we've touched on materials writing, and it seems to have started, from creating materials in your own classes, and then that's just snowballed into what it is now. And maybe we'll touch on voices in a sec. But what about the other strand that you're sort of focused on quite heavily, teacher training? How did that come about? Did that come about after writing materials and then training on materials, or was it training on some other stuff first?
The other strand as in teacher training, or
Yeah, teacher training, teacher training.
I guess that kind of just started over time, really. I think the more experience you get as a teacher, people start asking you to do things like for example, the vocational ESOL stuff kind of led on to, oh, can you go and present at this conference and talk about employability?
Mm.
And then, or they'll find out that you've been working a lot with literacy learners, so they'll want you to present on literacy, or they'll find out that you I guess if once people find out your different specialties and niches,
Mm.
they will want you to speak about those and deliver webinars for them and deliver training. So
So were you approached for most of the teacher training stuff that you've done, or did you seek it out?
a bit of both, I think. I
Right,
think that initially I was approached, and then
right,
that kind of planted the idea that's what I would quite like to do more of.
right.
I really enjoy with teacher training, you get to meet so many people
Yeah.
from around the world, and sometimes you're doing it for an in-house organization in another country, and you get to meet them, and then you kind of build up a lasting relationship on LinkedIn with that person, maybe the person who organized it, or maybe a couple of the teachers who were super keen. I really like that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I I love training. I'm on one, so within Spain, I'm on like the Cambridge University Person Assessment team in Spain and Portugal. And I mean, for the last year and a half, I've been online training, but it's been great to meet teachers from all over the country.
Hmm.
And like you said, you build a relationship with them. And I mean, LinkedIn's phenomenal for
Yeah.
any of the listeners out there. If you're not on LinkedIn, I mean, I'm not saying not a massive fan of social media, but you should be on there. It's great. It's great.
Come and connect with me and Jim. We're great fun.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
um, but no, it's great to meet so many UT professionals,
Hmm.
and so many like-minded people. I think there's a difference. I'm not sure if you would agree, like between training, well, delivering conferences and then doing that in-house training. Um, what would you prefer in terms of your training experience? Do you prefer going to conferences or do you prefer doing that in-house training for a number of days?
Oh, I like doing both.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the thing I like about having many hats is the diversity of it.
Right.
So I think that's why I said both. Yeah, I mean, they both have their benefits. I like conferences because you get to meet lots of people and catch up and raise your profile and maybe meet some contacts for future work.
Mm.
Um, with in-house, it's really nice to meet people and yeah, get to know them a little bit. And it's, yeah, I guess in a way it's a bit more relaxed, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, people, I think, yeah, people share their ideas a lot as well if you get to know them.
Mm.
And then, yeah, yeah, you get ideas from other people and that snowballs into other ideas. And
Mm.
yeah, I guess in ELT, it's a lot of ideas sharing, isn't it? You share your idea, somebody improves on it, and then somebody else changes it into something completely different. And then, yeah.
I mean, that's what whenever I do a conference, I always start with something like, just go and steal my ideas and change them. I think that's what, I mean, there's no new, in my mind, there are relatively few new ideas now.
Yeah.
And, I think I see it's great. I think it's a great thing, especially with my teachers, they come say, oh, Jim, I took your idea and, and we've changed it. I was like, great, you know, and conferences are really good for that. I suppose
Yeah.
on that, when I asked you about what would you prefer, I love conferences, but I think I do prefer that the in-house development.
Okay.
I especially if I can work with, like, obviously I'm the director of studies at a school, so I can see the teachers over the course of a year or perhaps even 2 or 3 years,
Hmm.
and I really do enjoy that.
What
Are
is it that
you?
makes you enjoy it so much?
I I I like seeing the progress of teachers and seeing them feel really happy with their progress,
Hmm.
and even more than that, see that what they're doing is improving their students' results.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and plus, I mean, if I look at it from a management perspective, I love seeing that teachers want to stay in the school, right? So, I'm not sure. Do you, within the college, do you do much in-house development there as well?
I have delivered, yeah, over the years, I've delivered quite a few sessions with the college. It's more kind of, sometimes it's formalized. We have training days where we all kind of bring all the disciplines together, I suppose. So we'll
Right.
have like one city, like so it's one day where there's lots of training, and there'll be external trainers come in, but also some in-house trainers, like maybe I'll deliver a session or whatever.
Brilliant.
And but yeah, so sometimes it's a bit more informal. We just get together at lunchtime and have a bit of a, oh, how do you deal with reading in the class, or how do you I don't know, we'll select a problem
Yeah, yeah.
and try
Those
and think of ideas to support students on in that.
those chats I find are really important.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously it's great to have a workshop that's just fully focused on one idea or plenty of ideas, but those more informal chats where it's just talking about your practice and this is what I do, this is what I do. I think there's something that that's why you need a staff room, or you need
Yeah. That's
you
what's missing a lot in teaching digitally. I mean, we've got our WhatsApp group for
yeah.
where we share things, and we've got like group emails or whatever, but it's just not the same.
No, no, it's not. I suppose
Yeah.
that's what this. I'm not sure if you've attended. I mean, I'm sure you would have. But maybe you've given. a talk at some of them. Like even with like the TEFL Development Hub or with the IO TEFL SIGs, they've got like their monthly meetups now, which I find are really
Yeah.
cool. Do you attend any of these?
I spoke at the TEFL Development Hub beginning of January.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm in the Facebook group. I need to be more active in it. I seem to be in a lot of Facebook groups, and I think I'm maybe spreading myself a little bit too thinly in all those Facebook groups, really.
I have to admit, like I post stuff on social media from the blog, but I'm very much like I stay away from social media. I just don't know how people have so much time. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like if people have the time to do that, great. I don't know how. I mean, for example, I took Instagram off my phone just a good year or so ago because I just found I was just scrolling,
Yeah,
looking
actually,
at
I looked
nothing.
on my phone yesterday. I put a parental lock on my phone just to see
Wow.
how long I was spending on social media, and I'm absolutely horrified.
It adds up, no?
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a crazy amount of unlocks. Just like those 2 minute little blasts, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes add up to too long.
Too long. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, well, I mean, we're going way off topic here. We'll come back.
yeah. Okay.
Uh, now, thinking about these two strands, materials writing and teacher training,
Yeah.
you've been quite successful in both, but I imagine there must have been some challenges or some difficult things along the way, something that made you stop and think. Can you think of maybe one or two for each of them?
Ooh, challenges of materials writing. I guess the big challenge for materials writing is that kind of constant worry of what's coming next. So my
Right.
project finishes and I don't have anything. Am I going to be very poor for a long time until I manage to find something? And it's always been that worry over my head, which I think is why I try and build my profile and try and network as much as I do. But I've never had any issues with. I've always found probably too much work
Right. Right.
rather than too little. Yes, I guess it's that balance of finding the right amount of work, and I'm not entirely sure I'm ever going to nail that.
Yeah.
Like, are you? Do you feel like you've got your work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing my master's at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the DOS at the school. And we're changing a lot of stuff in the school, like with the director, we work together and because we're quite a new school, a new academy. And so we're still growing. And so the times that I'm working, I'm just full stop, non-stop work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm studying in the morning for the masters at the weekends, and then trying to get these sponge chats in, trying to get to webinars. So I mean, I think I take on a lot,
Yeah.
um, but I think I'm doing okay at the moment in terms of time management. I think uh, maybe if I take on one or two more things, it'd be too much. So I think it's constantly like checking myself and auditing my time. I mean, one thing that I've learned this year, especially because of my first year as a full-time DOS, it was actually at a talk, I think at Athea. Lisa Dole was talking about management, and she was talking about the to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying you're never going to be able to complete the to-do list.
Yeah.
It's more about managing it, and that's really stuck with me. So that's both for teacher training and for management stuff now. I think that's kept in my mind of the things I need to do.
Yeah. So kind of one on, two off, or one off, two on thing and to-do list, isn't it? Like a kind of rotational. It's not really a list; it's more of a circle.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to look at the to-do list every day and think I need to do everything, I'd just be very, very,
Yeah,
very scared.
overwhelmed. I really like Trello for my to-do lists. I've got like a to-do list for things I need to do today, things I need to do at some point soon, and then an aspirational list of things I'd like to do. But I often find that the aspirational list ends up with like, yeah, we just need to get rid of that one.
Right, right. Yeah. Prioritizing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so so time is definitely time and then thinking about your what's coming next with materials writing.
yeah, time is a massive challenge. What's coming next? Yeah.
That's it. That seems to be a common theme, is finding. I mean, most of the people I spoke to, they say there's always that worry about finding work, but generally you do find work once you're
Yeah.
established.
And the more people that you work for, the bigger your network is. So now I know that I can actually reach out to lots of people that I've worked with in the past
Right.
and probably find far too much work,
Right.
more if I needed it. So,
And so we've spoken about some challenges with materials writing. What
mhm.
about teacher training? Has there been anything that's come up over the years that's sort of made you stop and think?
Mm, yeah, one of the things actually, so I was listening to, yeah, I guess one of the things with teacher training is when you go into an organization and I don't know, it's that kind of, do I know enough, and a bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And you're teaching a whole load of very experienced teachers. And it's like, am I actually teaching them anything here? Or are they just sitting thinking, what's she talking about?
Yeah.
She's none of this is new. This is, I already know this. But I think with the stuff that I'm doing now, like the graphic facilitation and the accessibility and inclusion and stuff like that, I think a lot of it is, well, maybe not so much with the inclusion and accessibility, but a lot of, there's certainly the graphic facilitation, it is all new
Yeah.
to a lot of people. So there's a lot of kind of light bulb moments of, brilliant, I can do this. It's all very different. But yeah, I guess there's that, how to convey things to people who are already very experienced. And I was listening to a podcast with Harry Waters, and he was talking about how the importance of, as a teacher trainer, knowing that it's basically your role to like give someone an idea and let them improve on it.
That's
So
nice.
yeah, I really like that kind of analogy that he was put, or just that kind of ethos that he was talking about.
Yeah, I completely, one, I completely agree with that, and also I completely understand what you're feeling. I think, especially when you your first few, maybe year or two of teacher training, and
Yeah.
you go into a room full of people and they're, been teaching for 15, 20 years.
Mm.
Some of them well-established trainers themselves.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
it's always interesting. You go to a conference and you're delivering one of your own sessions and you see, oh, that's an author over there.
Yeah.
A very famous trainer there. What are they doing in my session?
Yeah. And then you see in the chat that they've written, well, actually, this was debunked by, I'm like, oh no. Yeah.
That's I think that's probably one for people looking to move into teacher training. That must be, at least for me, it was anyway, something to contend with. It's a very personal battle, I think. I suppose the message that I would say is that everyone has to start out training somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Um, how did you deal with that, sort of those feelings? Did you just said, Emily, we're going to do it. We're just going to push through and
I
do it.
think it's just being aware that there will always be experts and making sure that the experts feel valued and bringing them in as a resource, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, using their knowledge and experience so that they can share their experiences and knowledge with the rest of the whoever you're teaching, with the rest of the group.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Obviously it also depends on,
And then going away and finding out a bit more about what they said, or networking a bit more with them to find out more information, because you're always learning. Yeah, that's what I like about teacher training, is that I'm always learning new things as well. So you've got to be ahead of the game in many ways.
I was speaking to Sandy in Sandy Millen in my last fun chat, and we're saying it's a privilege. We're talking about observing teachers, but it's a privilege to be in a teacher training position, I think, because of that element of just being able to see other teachers and their ideas and see how they're putting them into practice, or see how they're presenting them. And I've learned so much from training teachers and seeing how they're doing things. I think, oh, that's really good. Do I do that? I mean, I need to think about that. So I think that's another misconception probably about teacher training, that once you get into teacher training, you know everything, or something like that. So that can be broken down, I think. Now, shifting the topic a little bit, onto the thing that everyone kind of knows you for now.
Yeah.
Like if anyone's been to a conference where Emily has been, there's always these on Twitter. You have all your drawings about what you've seen and things like that. So I suppose the question, and you have answered this before in webinars and so on, but very quickly, what is graphic facilitation, and how can it benefit both teachers and learners?
Okay, so graphic facilitation is put very simply, using very simple, using drawings. So you're basically drawing icons. So like if you look around the computer screen right now, you will see like, so for example, I'm seeing the share screen icon. It's basically a square with an arrow in it. The chat is a speech bubble. The pause recording button is like two little lines. So these are all icons that internationally people are very aware of. And graphic facilitation is basically a case of copying icons and using those as simple drawings in the classroom.
Right.
And I find it, and also using visual templates. So visual templates are like, maybe you could have like a giant arrow on your whiteboard and have students think about their future, or a mountain to climb with challenges, for example. So it's kind of, in a way, visual templates can be a little bit like metaphorical,
Right.
like a roadmap or a river with some dangers to how are you going to get over these challenges, that kind of thing. But yeah, the benefits of it are millions of benefits. There's so many, and the more and more I use them, the more and more I find more and more benefits. So like, for example, think about a whiteboard full of words, like just words. So you've written up your vocabulary, you've maybe put the meanings of the words beside them. That's all very nice. But if you have drawings beside them, then you've got hooks to help students remember, and they're much more likely to remember. There's actually loads of research to show that you're more likely to remember things if you've got a visual hook on it.
Right.
And it can support, so I teach a lot of ESOL literacy at the moment, and some of my students haven't learned literacy in their first script.
Yeah.
So when I say to them things like, oh, can you write that in your notebook, and can you write a translation in your first language, they'll just look at me and I'll be like, oh, okay, you don't know how to write in your first language, that's fine. Why don't you copy this really simple icon? And they're like, oh, good. Okay, so then they've drawn, for example, an apple, and very, very easily, and then they'll remember that that's what the word is. They've got something to study from later.
Brilliant.
Yeah, also with sketchnoting. So I sketchnote when so lots and lots of webinars these days. I can often get distracted, but actually drawing and doodling can help you focus. So if you take sketch notes while you are listening, it'll help you remember, but also give you something concrete to study from later.
Yeah. Right.
So like when you're flicking through a page of notes that's basically just a blank, like black and white, black and white, black and white notes, black and white notes, and just text, it's not going to be as visually engaging or catch your eye as much. But if you've got lots of words and pictures in your notebooks,
it's going to be better.
They're going to be much more memorable and engaging, and with hooks, and yeah.
That's interesting. I think about my notebook. It's very much just text, and I mean I read it quite a lot, so I think I can remember quite a lot. But there's loads of stuff that I go back now. Like I also try to create like diagrams. Like if I know if I've studied like action research, I might go create like a spidergram of all that sort of stuff. But maybe even just those little icons would be beneficial. Like you mentioned.
So it'd be like a mind map with some little icons drawn next to it, or a Venn diagram that's filled with like sketchnote style icons, graphic facilitation style icons, little drawings. So if you look on my blog, there's lots of pictures of. Wish I had some to hand. I should have.
No, but thinking about your blog and graphic facilitation, if I remember correctly, you have a course that teachers can take on this.
Yeah.
Do you want to quickly a bit of a plug for the course then? Do you want to quickly just give us an overview of the course and what?
So I literally just finished teaching that course before I came on here. So The course is 6 weeks long, and you will learn on that course lots of different how to draw lots of different icons. So you'll build your visual vocabulary. Graphic facilitators talk about learning how to draw icons as being a visual vocabulary. So similar to learning a language, the more you learn how to draw, the more you practice it, the faster you'll get and the better you will be at communicating visually. So on that course, we do a lot of drawing. We do a lot of creating visual templates, maybe creating information sheets, do a bit of sketch noting, how to create a GIF. So you'll see on my social media feed, I use quite a lot of GIFs, but you can use them in class. GIFs are great for sending students information because they don't take a lot of bandwidth to download.
Right.
So you could send a video with lots of information, or you could take you can make a GIF out of it. What else is in the course? So visual templates, visual capture sheets. So visual capture sheets are things like maybe capturing information from participants. So maybe getting feedback. So I've got a feedback fairy on my blog, which has been very popular. So rather than sending a Survey Monkey or a Google form for feedback, I'll send a picture of the feedback fairy, and people can either write in it in Word or in Jamboard, or using the annotation tools in Zoom. And so it's like a toolbox for tools that you would tools like activities that you would take away.
Right.
A heart for things that you loved about the session, a bin for things that you really didn't want to have in the session that you wished weren't there, maybe a thought bubble for things that got you thinking about.
Cool.
And then a speech bubble for like things you would tell other people. So it's just a different way of getting feedback.
I really like that. I might have to steal that.
I should say that I got that from the Scottish Refugee Council, from the trainer there.
Right. Okay.
When I was doing my secondment with them.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to put a link to that in the blog post. So for anyone who's interested in taking that, they can take a look. Now, another part of your career that seems to be quite important is your work with ESOL and refugees. And now you also mentioned before the sponge chat that you actually spent some time advising MPs on ESOL policy. Mm-hmm. One, how did that come about? And two, I imagine there must have been some challenges there and friction or working towards a goal that you wanted, and maybe there must have been some hurdles. Do you want to talk about that experience just a little bit?
Okay, so that was so I went through a little phase of like being addicted to secondments. And I think it's partly just being addicted to doing lots of different things, really.
Right. Yeah.
So I started out, I was for ESOL Network Project Coordinator. So I was coordinating for Glasgow. So I was coordinating kind of partnership working between all the community projects that were running ESOL and all the colleges running ESOL and doing initial assessments and getting students into classes. And then the development officer for ESOL at Education Scotland, which is the education body in Scotland that advises the government and works closely with the government. I think it's now part of the government, but I'm not entirely sure. So Education Scotland, the development officer there went on maternity leave. And so I applied for the post. And I think because I had so much experience with Glasgow, I was quite a good candidate for the role. Right. So I started doing that. And at that time, so that role, there was a lot of, so for example, implementing the Scottish ESOL strategy, delivering talks on the strategy, supporting providers, but also writing speeches and advising advisory reports for MSPs.
Right.
And a lot of that was, I guess the challenge there was finding the information, because a lot of the information that the MSPs would ask for would take a lot of time to compile. Like they'd ask, like, how long is the waiting list in Glasgow, for example, and I would know instantly off the top of my head, but that's like a instantly off the top of your head, but MSPs want actual facts.
Facts.
So you need
Right.
to then go to all the colleges and like ask them specific numbers, please,
Mm.
and then compile them into a report. And then obviously you've got to wait for everybody to get back to you. And then it's not necessarily always an easy thing to ask people. And then I guess for ESOL, there's a big waiting list in Glasgow. There still is, and there's it's getting people in. I guess it's that needing more funding for it, but there not being enough funding, and at the time not enough classrooms. So even if there was the funding, there weren't necessarily enough teachers or classrooms to make it logistically possible.
Right.
So yeah, those kind of challenges, I suppose.
That's something I don't think any of the people that I've spoken to so far have such experience in that, and that seems to be another area where EOT professionals could put their talents if they're
Yeah,
looking if they're looking to help policy, or if they're strong advocates
yeah,
of something. How does one get involved in that? Did you people just see sort of do they advertise these positions, or is it
yeah.
something
I
that
mean, I guess it would be like civil service, wouldn't it? Really,
mm,
civil service roles, advisory. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I think there'd be quite. I mean, there's only one of those roles in Scotland, and I believe that actually it's now more of a community learning and development overall. So it's
okay,
adult literacy and ESOL and like a whole mix of different, maybe prison learning, a whole mix of
right,
different community learning and development stuff
mm,
in there. And then, yeah, I'm not sure how really it works in England.
yeah,
But yeah, I presume that there must be roles in different countries that are similar.
interesting,
And then things like working for charities as well and voluntary organizations in a supportive role rather than, or in an advocacy role
yeah.
too.
I think for example in Spain the Red Cross has they do quite a lot of work with refugees and immigrants,
Mm,
um, and there must be other organizations as well. Normally they're sort of volunteer things. People volunteer and
mhm.
and they help out there. Okay, that's really interesting. That must have been quite a rewarding experience, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was quite eye-opening as well because it just made me see kind of the I don't know, in a way, the kind of back the strings getting pulled
Right.
in government. Like you're sending these advisory reports to MSPs, and then you realize that actually MSPs are taking their advice from people like me. And so like all their policies are basically developed based on advice that they're getting from a civil servant. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
or
pretty
you, maybe at
cool.
least you hope that.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, someone that's got their finger on the pulse has been advising them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Um, okay, shifting the topic again. Going back really, um, thinking about your project with voices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people, I imagine the people that are watching this and they're thinking about maybe moving into materials writing, or maybe they've just started creating their own materials and think, oh, I could do this in the future. Could you give us some insight into what went into that project? So I imagine it's more than just thinking about ideas and putting them on paper. I imagine there's a brief that you get, and there must have been quite a lot of revision processes and things like that. And did you write it on your own? So I suppose could you give us just some insight into what went into creating voices?
Okay, so like right back from the very beginning. Okay, so I think Rachel Gibbon at National Geographic Learning really want, and Kaylee Buller really wanted to use the National Geographic Learning Explorers.
Right.
So the explorers are the people that have the coolest jobs in the world, going to like the Antarctic and hanging out, or yeah, hanging out with penguins and taking pictures of polar bears and diving under and all those kind of things, like marine biologists and scientists and
What we would
sketch
have been.
biologists. I want to be, yeah, there's a sketch biologist whose job is to basically draw pictures of seabirds.
Okay. So
So
your
yeah,
next
so they
next
wanted
job.
to, yeah, but they saw this opportunity. We've got these explorers, they've got really cool jobs, they're really inspiring people. Why don't we use them to create authentic content? So we got to they interviewed them, and then we used them. So there's listening activities in there of people talking about, all the usual ELT topics like hobbies and jobs and things like that. So they're talking about everyday topics, but they're real people.
Right.
So yeah, Rachel and Kaylee had this idea that they wanted to use that, and I think they really wanted to use elf prawn as well. So because language is global, and so why are we trying to all try and speak RP when the majority of the world, well, 80% of people, English language users are not, are using it as a lingua franca.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So yeah, so they wanted to use elf prawn. So and I think they already worked with Lewis Lansford and Daniel Barber, and then they brought in Marek Kiczkowiak and Chia Swan Chong. So Marek Kiczkowiak is an expert in elf prawn. He's written a book about it, great book, and Chia Swan Chong has written Successful International Communication. So one of the spreads, so rather than having a spread on speaking, we have a spread on international communication, which is basically, as I like to simplify it, into speaking plus.
Right.
Because and it's been, when I was writing the spreads, I learned a lot about international communication and developed my own communication skills. So I think it'll be really helpful for not only for the students, but also for the teachers to use it. The Voices has explorers for authentic content. That's got elf prawn, and it's got international communication. But yeah, so I was brought on and given a brief. So they kind of came together with the concept and got their heads together at a big meeting and came up with the ideas of how to lay it all out and have critical thinking skills in it and the reading skills in it and whatever. And then they brought me in and gave me a brief, and I worked with my co-author Christian Lee, and then another co-author Gary Patari, and we worked together to create the scope and sequence based on that brief, and then with the editorial team, and then started writing it.
Right.
And yeah, so there was a couple of drafts and then a third draft, which was really quite basic, just give it a quick once over kind of thing. But yeah, so it was first draft, second draft, third draft. There's quite a lot of going back and forward, checking that it's that kind of, you get an idea and then you discover that somebody else has already used it in a different level. Oh, we've already done that. Oh, okay, we'll have to do something else. We'll have to take this from a different angle. And then you think about it. A lot of time spent thinking about ideas, or coming up with ideas and coming up with contexts that aren't like white male European. Like trying to get it as global as you possibly can. Or white female European kind of thing either. Or spent a long time trying to find contexts that were as inclusive as possible and diverse.
A lot went into it then. It's like it seems the more materials writers that I speak to, the more I realize that what goes into writing a course book is so much more than just writing an activity or writing a set of activities. Like you said, this project is at different levels as well. So many different authors, so many different ideas. So I suppose for anyone looking to move into materials writing, that's something that they need to take into consideration, right? Is being part of a team. But I imagine that must have been a massive learning curve as well, working with so many brilliant people. That's really cool. That's really cool.
I learned a lot from my other authors, and built a really quite strong relationship with all of them now, and the whole editorial team. They've just been brilliant.
No, that's excellent. That's amazing. Okay, so thinking about the two strands that we've focused on today, teacher training and materials writing. Let's say that there is an EOT professional out there, and they're thinking about, well, maybe I'd like to take the leap and try one of these out. What advice would you have for people looking to move into these strands?
Okay, so for material, loads. So I think for both of them, you need to raise your profile.
Right.
And that involves having a website, having a blog, getting on social media, Trying not to let social media take over your life, like we spoke about earlier, and but also doing more of it, starting small and building up, taking any opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah.
So with materials writing, we also, for materials writing, maybe follow people like Pete Clement's ELT planning blog, or Atena Jusko's got a good blog with quite a lot of blog posts on it with how to get into materials writing. There's a Nile course, and then is it John Hughes has one as well, both on materials writing. Are they the same one?
No, there's the Nile
They're
one.
different.
I think they're different. And then there's the, because
Okay.
he does it through Oxford University.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so that would be my advice for, and then obviously the ELT teacher to writer stuff. You could
They're
join
amazing.
ELT publishing professionals,
Mm.
that kind of thing for materials writing, and just try and make as many networks as possible.
Yeah.
And do webinars and talks, which would be how you get into teacher training as well. And that would maybe be starting with things like your teaching association, or start in-house, and then deliver to your teaching association, get really familiar with using Zoom and all the tips and tricks, try and make them as interactive as possible.
Yeah.
Because you want people to be using the chat function as often as possible, the annotation tools, if they're an option. I often find that webinars, the annotation tools have been disabled, so I don't get to use them. But in my own training sessions, I do a lot of using them. Yeah, I guess just building up your profile, taking it slowly, taking all the opportunities that you can get.
I think that you mentioned two really important things in my mind. One, raising your profile. I think now especially, I mean, not only just for teacher training and materials writing, but being a reflective teacher, a blog is a great idea.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's your online CV in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And the more that you do, even if they're small things, you can show that, and people, I know that people look at it. I mean, I got my job really working with Cambridge. I said my name was dropped, but they looked at my blog, so that was one of the, and that was mentioned in the interview. And so it does. I mean, I imagine you've got work from people looking at your blog as well. So that's that's definitely an important thing.
And on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. I get quite a lot of job offers and opportunities sent to me via LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And build your profile, put a photo, like learn how to use LinkedIn. Don't just get LinkedIn and then think that people are going to come to you. If you don't have a profile picture or a profile or any information, you need to be up there.
The basic stuff, right?
Yeah, like really fill your profile with good stuff.
Yeah.
And have a look at other people who've got lots of followers and see what they're doing on LinkedIn and do that.
No, that's brilliant. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, like if I see somebody that doesn't have a profile picture on LinkedIn, I just think that they don't use it, so won't bother connecting with them.
Yeah. Okay, the last section of Sponge Chats is always focused on book recommendations. Obviously, we're focusing on two strands today. Do you have any book recommendations for materials writers or future materials writers, or teacher trainers or future teacher trainers?
All the ELT teacher to writer books, every single one of them. I've got the compendium and I've got the inclusive materials writing one.
Wow. Okay, dedicated.
Yeah. So that would be for materials writing, and for teacher training, I don't know. Guess all the books. All the kind of main. I think they're good to go back for reference to, the like Scott Thornbury and Harmer and Scrivener. And actually, this Teaching English Grammar book by Scrivener has loads of really nice visuals in it. So yeah,
that's got you, right?
Going back to basics, and actually, Marek Kitchkowiak's book about elf prawn, I can't remember the full name of, because elf prawn I think is the way forward. And Xie Xuanchong's international communication book as well.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Because, yeah, I think both of those are really key. Yeah.
No, I agree. I haven't actually read Chia's book. I flicked through Marek's.
It's really
Marek's
great.
book,
There's loads of really nice, she calls them critical incidents. So like lots of nice little examples of communication, either breakdowns or good communication, bad communication, like
Right.
critical incidents, things that will make you think, oh, this happened. Why did it happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. How could I have done that differently?
Excellent. No, well, I'll make sure to put links to all of them on the blog. Yeah, I mean, I like what you said about going back to basics. Sometimes it's important to revisit the basics,
Yeah.
and think about how you're conveying them as a trainer, I think.
Mhm.
And also to remember that there's a process,
Yeah.
that not everyone's at the same level as you. And it takes, many years of reflective practice to be able to get to quite a high level of teaching
Mhm.
proficiency, if you will. Yeah, no, you've said some very, very interesting points today.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, I'm not going to keep you much longer because I know that you have some stuff to do this afternoon. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak to you for this Punch Chat. Thank you very much for coming. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, it's been absolute pleasure. And hopefully we'll cross paths again at another conference. No, I'm completely sure that we will.
Yeah. Are you going to IATEFL?
I'm this year. I'm not. No.
Okay.
I would like to be able to, but the price tag is just a little bit
Yeah.
out of my range this year. So perhaps next year. We'll see what happens.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully maybe I'll meet you there next year or maybe in Spain.
Maybe in Spain. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
All right, Emily. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.